historic verdict, Gillian. It will be a historic sentencing too. But will it be consequential politically? That is the big question now. How will this guilty verdict, the first ever for an American president, affect the odds of Donald Trump becoming president once again in an election in just over 5 months' time? Where better to ask about the odds than here in Reno, Nevada, one of the casino capitals of the United States, also Nevada, one of the swing states. Put simply, if Donald Trump wants to win the election in 2024, he is likely to have to wrestle this state back from the current president, Joe Biden. I'm joined by a Donald Trump voter, retired lorry driver Keith. Keith, Donald Trump guilty on all 34 counts today. How will this affect the way that you vote, if at all?
It will not affect the way I vote. I think it's a shame for our country. I think it's ridiculous that was even brought. It's what this country's become. Witch hunting, demonizing, finger pointing, instead of getting together on issues, instead of spending money on worthless things like we've been doing in the last administration.
Donald Trump describing this as a sham trial, as a disgusting verdict. It sounds like you think the same. You would, from what I'm understanding, be happy to vote for a convicted felon in November.
He's not a convicted felon. This is a joke. This whole thing is a mockery of our whole country. You know, I love America, and what we've become is sad. To see it come to this is really sad. To see the way we're throwing money away, giving people, fighting over issues, not getting together on anything, you know, it bothers me very much.
Donald Trump faces a further 3 criminal trials. Those are unlikely to happen before the election. Do you think you would feel any differently were he to be convicted in the trials around January the 6th, around election interference, for example?
No. Again, I think the whole thing is a sham. I really think we need to run this country and forget about the personalities and deal with the issues at hand. That's what I think Donald Trump does well. And quite honestly, it's a shame this is the only 2 people we have running.
I think a lot of people feel that way, Keith. I'm just going to bring in your friend, Gary. You have
My ex-friend. Okay.
You have very different political views. You're going to vote for Biden in November.
Absolutely, yes.
What do you make of this guilty verdict for Donald Trump? Guilty.
Glad to see him finally getting caught at something. He works his way out of everything. From the Mueller report, what his attorney general said isn't what Robert Mueller said. Everything. And with these other 3 trials that you mentioned, he postpones. He does everything he can to postpone them. And if he were innocent, an innocent man would be saying, come on, let's get this over with. Find me innocent. How about in the hidden documents? You being from England, our allies can't trust us anymore to have him as president. It's top secret stuff being stored at Mar-a-Lago. And if he's not around, you want to know what his opinion is on something? Ask Vladimir Putin. He'll tell you. And Trump wants to pull us out of NATO. How does the English people feel about that? I think it's an invitation to another war.
What I keep hearing time and again, Gary, speaking to people here, especially die-hard Trump voters, his base is unlikely to be moved by this verdict. We heard that with your friend Keith. They'll still vote for him regardless of a guilty conviction.
It's amazing.
Do you think it will affect the overall result in November, this guilty verdict?
They say it could. I really don't know. It's going to be very tight. We have some states that they're going to vote one way. You know, the media system that the Trump voters listen to, I've heard before that first rule of fascism is to discredit the media, and that's all they do. That's all they've been doing. I'm a 69-year-old that voted Republican for over 40 years until Trump came. I voted for Trump the first time. After 4 years of him, there's no way I could do that again. It's just not possible.
You were mentioning before we were having a little chat off camera about why you think this particular case is consequential, the dealings that he had with Stormy Daniels. Do you think the behaviour that's been recapped during this trial is unbecoming of a president?
No, it's not. But that's Donald Trump. I'm surprised they're even prosecuting him for this, but at least he gets away with everything. He walks away from everything. And I pay attention to the real news, what he calls fake news. And I was just telling Keith, I bet you didn't even watch the select committee hearings if you're familiar with that about after he got out of office. I watched them. There was 300 witnesses. They were all Republicans. And yet most of the Republican people I know, they say, what do you think of the select committee hearings? They didn't watch it. They don't want to know the truth. At least listen to both sides.
It's brilliant. Thank you very much, Gary. Gary, they're reflecting on something that we do hear time and again, and that is the view that Donald Trump seems to get away with anything. That's how he got his nickname Teflon Don. Well, now we have a conviction on these 34 counts, 34 guilty counts. He will be likely a convicted felon by the time this sentencing happens. But the question is, how will it affect him politically? And the polls are divided on that. We've seen various polls over the last couple of months that suggest that independent voters may well be swayed by a guilty verdict in this case. But there was another poll today from the American news organisation PBS that showed that 2/3 of registered voters will not be impacted by a guilty verdict for Donald Trump. And in fact, 25% of Republican voters would be more likely to vote for Donald Trump as a result of this guilty verdict. So it's certainly a murky, uncertain picture out there, but we'll certainly be speaking to voters here